The Smith & Wesson M&P Bodyguard 380 is probably the single most carried gun that I own. I've had this gun for quite a few years. I actually had one previous to this that I sold, and later on I went back and bought another one because I liked it. This one does not have a laser, but I carry this one a lot because it is so small, fits in my pocket, fits in my waistband very easily, and it fits in the palm of my hand even better. I like this one. It has a nice stiff safety on it, so it's stiff to engage and it's a little bit easier to disengage. The slide is actually locked when the safety is engaged, so you can't rack the slide, which I'm kind of indifferent to. This one has a good stiff slide lock on it that also releases the slide when you pull down on it. The slide serrations look like those on the M&P Shield or the full-size M&P. This is a newer model of the small Bodyguard, and this is a hammer-fired double action only. So you see as I pull that trigger, it cocks the hammer and drops it all in one. So it has a very smooth trigger pull and a very repeatable trigger pull. Let's take a look at what that trigger pull actually is. So the first trigger pull on this one comes in at 7 pounds, 13.3 ounces. The second trigger pull comes in at 7 pounds, 13.9 ounces. And the third trigger pull comes in at 7 pounds, 5.1 ounces. So just about 7.5 pounds, a little over 7.5 pounds on average. Now this comes with a 6-round 380 ACP magazine, so the capacity is 6 plus 1. These magazines are pretty cheap. I think I pay around $18 for them, and I have quite a few. You can get them with a flush floor plate or the extended floor plate, which even the extended floor plate for me does not give me 3 fingers on the grip, but it does give a little bit better grip on my ring finger on my right hand, which makes it a little bit more comfortable to shoot, but honestly, I kind of like the flat ones better. Now the takedown on this is a little bit weird. You actually have to lock the slide back, flip this lever forward, and take it out of the gun, and then the slide comes right off the frame. To reassemble it now, you just take the slide, you slide it back up onto the frame, you lock the slide all the way to the rear position with the slide stop. I have to pull the barrel forward enough to get the little notch to line up for the pin. Then you have to kind of push the pin in part way and rotate it so it clears that detent in the frame. Rotate it forward a little more while you're pushing in so it locks in place, and then rotate it back into the locked position, and then the gun's back together. Now, Smith & Wesson has been surprising me and a lot of other people lately, such as the SD9 2.0. When I got that gun, I really thought it was just going to be a slightly improved version of the SD9 VE, but it was a totally different gun. And just like the SD9 2.0, this Bodyguard 2.0 is a very different gun than the original Bodyguard 380. Still has a nice stiff safety on it. It's stiff to engage and a little bit easier to disengage. It has some nice stippling on it. The frame size is just a little bit longer. So this one came with two 12-round magazines. They're actually blocked to 10 rounds for my state, so it's legal. And with that 12-round magazine, with the extra extension in there, it fits my hand very well, all 3 fingers on the frame, and the slide being just a little bit longer, but it still really fits in the palm of my hand really well. The other nice thing about this one, when the safety is engaged, you can rack the slide, which is very different than how the Bodyguard 1.0 works. This one has the new style Smith & Wesson bladed flat trigger, and it's really good. It feels great. So let's get a test on what that trigger weight is on this gun. The first trigger pull comes in at 5 pounds, 11 ounces. Now the second trigger pull comes in at 5 pounds, 10.1 ounces. Pretty consistent. And the third trigger pull comes in at 5 pounds, 10.1 ounces. So again, right around 5 pounds, 11 ounces. That is a really consistent and really nice trigger for a carry gun. Now again, another reason that I can tell this gun has been completely redesigned, the takedown on this is not anything like the Bodyguard 1.0. That pin is captive in this. And just like a Shield or an M&P 40, you basically lock the slide back, rotate that lever forward, let the slide go forward, pull the trigger, and it slides right off the frame. And then reassembly, you just lock that slide back, rotate that takedown lever back, and then let the slide go, and you're good to go. The gun is now back together. So again, the Bodyguard 2.0 is not really much like the Bodyguard 1.0 at all. It's more akin to the Shield or the M&P full-size series. You can see that the slide lock and the takedown lever on this are just about the same as what you would see on say a 9mm Shield 1.0. Now, this one doesn't have a frame mounted safety, but the slide stop and the takedown lever work exactly the same as how the Bodyguard 2.0 works. And also, the Bodyguard 2.0 is a striker fired pistol, not a hammer fired pistol. And then this is my M&P 40. Once again, there's no frame mounted safety, but the slide stop and the takedown lever are exactly the same as the Bodyguard 2.0. I put a community post up on my YouTube page the other day, and it had a picture of the Bodyguard 2.0 next to the original Bodyguard 1.0, the SIG P238, and the LCP Max. And I immediately started getting backlash from a few viewers saying that Smith & Wesson did something really dumb in trying to copy like a SIG P365, and that they ruined the name of a perfect quote-unquote gun, meaning the Bodyguard 1.0, by making this Bodyguard 2.0 too big to carry and a little bit cumbersome. And they're basically saying that it was a dumb gun and it was a dumb idea. So I really beg to differ. This gun is only about a half an inch longer than a Bodyguard 1.0 in the barrel, and the barrel length doesn't even matter when you're carrying, because the barrel is going to be tucked into your pants, or if it's in your pocket, I mean, a half an inch, nobody's going to notice the difference. Now, the frame length on this, or the grip length rather, is really what shows when you're carrying this particular gun. And especially with a 12 round magazine, it does stick out a little bit more than what you would have with the Bodyguard 1.0. But realistically, if you're carrying this in a decent holster and you're carrying it around your waistband, or again, if you're pocket carrying this gun and it's in a holster inside your pocket, it's not really any more noticeable than the Bodyguard 1.0. I've been carrying this pretty much exclusively for the past few weeks, and I've not had anybody notice that I'm carrying it, and it's extremely comfortable. I've been using this Elite Survival ballistic nylon holster that goes in the waistband in the appendix carry, and when my belt goes through that belt buckle, the belt itself is basically covering about a third of the grip handle. So I can still easily get it out of my pants, but it's completely concealed. Very deep concealment on this. The slide serrations on this make it really easy to grip. Although I will say, racking the slide on this gun is a little bit harder than some of the other guns that I have. Now, I mentioned that this particular one that I bought came with 12 round magazines. They do have blocks in them, so they're locked to 10 rounds. They're a little bit stiff to insert when the magazine is loaded into the gun. I found that when I need to chamber a round into the gun, I have to lock the slide back and then insert the magazine and drop the slide. Now, the magazines on these, one thing that I thought was great, the little spacer that goes on the extended 12 round magazines, when you put that thing on, normally those spacers slide up and down the magazine and they don't stay in place. A lot of people glue them in. So Smith & Wesson on this particular model fixed that by making the little floor plate with the locking tab part of that sleeve adapter, so that when it goes down the magazine and you slide the floor plate on, the spring tension actually holds that adapter plate down on the bottom of the magazine. Now, putting the Bodyguard 1.0 and the 2.0 side by side, you can see how different the guns actually look, but really how much that size is not that much different from the Bodyguard 1.0. You can see here the barrel's about a half an inch longer. It's not much longer, just barely any. The width of the guns is about the same. I mean, it might be a fraction wider on the 2.0, but it's almost unnoticeable. And again, when you're holding them side by side, it's really unnoticeable. The rear sights are a little bit different. The ones on the 2.0 are a little bit wider and a little bit deeper. It's a U cut instead of a square notch. And the front sight on my 1.0, I painted orange, and on the 2.0, it actually has a night sight with an orange dot. Now, again, looking at this gun, this thing is a totally different, totally redesigned gun. It basically looks like a miniaturized version of an M&P full size. And I think Smith & Wesson did a fantastic job on this particular handgun. A micro compact 380 that holds 10 or 12 rounds, that's striker fired, and it's just a phenomenal gun. It's a complete redesign. It's comfortable, it's small, it's lightweight, it has a good capacity. And again, I think Smith & Wesson hit another home run with this particular gun. So thanks for joining me for another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. I appreciate your viewership. Make sure you support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot. God bless America. And you remember, if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, remind them that freedom is the greater good.